long time.
Olivia's grandmother, Lum Yok, was not a blood relative. Olivia was, in fact, adopted from the local hospital, where she began life disadvantaged, an orphan, abandoned at birth by her biological parents.
The first angel, I suppose, in my life was my grandmother, because I suppose without her adopting me from the hospital, I would not have been what I am today. You just can't imagine if I ended up in some other family whom you do not have any love.
The positive influence Olivia's grandmother had on her in those early years was to be the foundation of her future achievements.
In primary 1, I was very weak. I could not join PE class. And I told my grandmother, I wanted to be healthy. And my grandmother said, you can do it. My grandmother will wake me up in the morning and I'll train. And I still remember the first sports day that I took part in, that was in primary 5. My grandmother actually came to support me, and she brought with her a big empty box. And my neighbor asked her, why do you bring such a big empty box? And she told my neighbor, oh, my granddaughter is going to win prize. I'm going to bring a lot of prize back, so I need a big box with me. And that actually set me thinking, she has so much faith and trust in me, how could I fail her? So I remember the first sports day, I really tried my hardest and I won back some prizes. Throughout the whole life, I have encountered many, many problems. It was that little faith that kept me going in life. The kind of house that I stay in probably looks something like this, with a zinc roof, a wooden panel. I always hate it in the daytime because it's so hot. There's no water pipe. We didn't have any electricity in this kind of house.
While there was no lack of love in Olivia's childhood, creature comforts were harder to come by. By age 9, her impoverished living conditions forced Olivia to seek work at a rattan factory.
The rattan, sometimes, if it is too hard, you cut your hand. And especially when you're so young, you really have to pull very hard in order to make the school bag very tight. Otherwise, the school bag rejected, you don't get to earn the money. Every school bag you make, you earn 15 cents Malaysian cents. The first time I received was a $5 note. I came back, I took the $5 note, I ironed it. And after I ironed it, I put it in between my textbook. And when I went to school, I flipped open my textbook and looked at the $5 many times. And then after that, I gave it to my grandmother, because it was so rare to see a $5 note.
But it soon became apparent that working long hours for a paltry sum of money was not the answer. Poverty in the village was a vicious cycle.
Generation after generation, they were living in a poverty. And every morning when you woke up, you will hear cries, you will hear parents beating their children, you will hear quarrels everywhere. There wasn't any pleasant things about that whole village. Everybody, the husband and wife, would quarrel because of money. The children would end up in gangster fight. And I told myself, we cannot live in that kind of condition forever. My grandmother, she was all the time very sad. And I sort of console her. I said, don't worry. One day when I grew bigger, I will buy a house. I will buy a house for you, and I will earn a lot of money for you.
Out of love for her grandmother, Olivia had set herself a noble task, even though she had no idea how to achieve it. Soon, however, she would be set off on that very road by someone else who had faith in her. This is Olivia's old secondary school. She's returned for an informal reunion with some of her former classmates. Olivia was one of those students the teachers always remembered for all the right reasons.
I know she was a very brilliant person, very brilliant. She didn't need to study, I think. She just listened to you while you taught her. Then after that, everything will be inside here. She was really brilliant, and she was one of the top students.
哇，你 Chinese 这么厉害呀，拿去呀！你看我拿多少？4嘞，你看。
来看我的多少。
The teachers and the principals were the people whom I look up to very much, because they can give me knowledge. They can teach me how I should go. My form teacher who keep encouraging me, who was a mentor to me.
我记得好像是他有问我了，他说为什么人有些是穷人，有些是富人呢？为什么有这个区别啦？那时候我说这个区别呢，就是说靠读书咯，功课好，将来出来找事情容易做。
That actually sets me thinking that, okay, I'm very determined. I want to be very good in my schoolwork. I want to make it in life.
Doing well in school was clearly a way out of poverty for Olivia. She worked hard and became an exceptional student. Her achievements caught the attention of the school's vice principal, and he was to make all the difference to the direction Olivia's life would take.
She was quite outstanding in her schoolwork, both in the classroom and outside the classroom. That's why we pay a bit of more attention to this particular girl, because she seemed to be good in sports, good in studies.
Oh, Mr. Chong, hi, good to see you again. Yeah. I always told.
In 1977, Cheong Pak Heng gave star student Olivia some of the best advice she would ever get.
I had my LCE examination in Malaysia. I did very well, and my principal came to see me, and I still remember I was just talking casually with him about things in life and so on, and suddenly he said, Olivia, I think you. He called me Oilin. I think you got to consider very seriously in life. There's just not enough opportunity in this small town.
I advised her to, after the Form 3, I said, why don't you go to Singapore, where you can have a better chance of bettering yourself. Because in those days, it was rather difficult for our students to get to 6th form here, you see. Competition was very keen, and the number of places limited. So a better way out would be Singapore.
And for a moment, I told myself that was it really so critical for me to get away from this hometown? I had so many friends. I have to leave my grandmother, and that was the hardest thing to do.
The decision to leave her beloved grandmother and her friends was bittersweet, and not one she could easily make. For a 16-year-old from a small town, the prospect of going to an unknown foreign city was daunting.
She was afraid that what would happen if being very careful, what would happen if I can't make it? Can I come back here and study? She was, I think, exempted from paying fees. To give up your free place would be quite a big thing to do if you come from a poor family. And to give up a place and have no place to come back to study, that would be a terrible thing.
I came back home. I discussed with my grandmother. And my grandmother was so happy and said that, oh, you should go. If this is the path that you need to take, you should take.
In 1978, with her grandmother's blessings and just $10, Olivia Lum left her life in Kampar for the opportunities the city of Singapore offered.
Coming to Singapore was sort of like the best choice. I was actually staring at the many stories in the People's Park, and I got stunned because I've never seen such a tall building before. So I told myself, this is the place. This is the place I'm going to make my fortune.
After many rejections, Olivia finally found a school that would admit her. She worked hard to get good grades and gained admission to one of Singapore's top junior colleges. Things seemed to be going well for Olivia in her new home until news came of her grandmother's failing health.
Actually, after I left, she fell very ill. My neighbor told me that she was very alone. She has lost the purpose in life. All the time she was looking forward to me coming home. So if you look back, sometimes
In 1981, her grandmother passed away, and Olivia lost the only family she had known. Determined that her late grandmother's faith in her would not be misplaced, Olivia worked through her grief and entered university. Her choice of what to study would prove to be critical to her future.
I always dream about becoming a scientist, but I also like business because business sort of like give me a way. So when I need to decide something, I told myself that I don't need to, because it was.
Instead, Olivia opted to study chemistry.
She was actually most of the students in varsity. I think we were all quite focused on just studying. But with Olivia, she was always thinking of doing business, of looking for opportunities, of great ideas that she had that one day she would do well in business. It wasn't a very much of academic career that she was pursuing, more a business-oriented focus that she always had from day one.
It was actually a very good experience in the university because I get to know a lot of my lecturers and a lot of friends, particularly my lecturers. I still recall that I always had a little session outside of the class to discuss with them anything under the sky.
Nearly a decade later, these university friends and lecturers would be instrumental in Olivia's journey to success.
I would say she's a very bright girl. She's thinking quite far ahead. And she's also able to sort of implement what she thought of.
But I do remember she had quite a good relationship with her chemistry lecturer. I think he also, in some ways, influenced her about the commercial opportunities that a technical field could afford to her.
Upon graduation, Olivia began work as a chemist with a multinational corporation. It would prove to be more than just a first job. Today, she comes full circle as guest speaker at the very company she started her career with.
We're absolutely delighted to have Olivia Lum with us today. Some of you here will remember that she was a colleague of yours.
Glaxo was such a conducive environment, good working conditions. The pay was good. Everything else about Glaxo was good during that time. And during that time,
Olivia's time with Glaxo would help crystallize her vision of where her future lay.
And I was very fortunate that during one period, I was rotated to look after the wastewater treatment. And I found that we had a lot of challenge, despite the fact that we put in a lot of money. And I told myself that even a big company like this still finds challenge in treating the wastewater. What about all those smaller companies who can't afford even to put up a wastewater treatment plant? What will happen to all the wastewater? And I'm sure that they just discharge the wastewater to the natural rivers. If everybody were to continue to do that, I'm sure that one day we're not going to have any clean water to drink. We're not going to have a decent environment to live in as well. So I told myself that this might be a sunrise industry.
Sensing opportunity, Olivia decided to leave the security of a job for something quite uncertain.
Some of them, knowing my background, would think that I had actually taken such a great risk into resigning and getting into something that I had no experience in. But I cannot live life with the dream unfulfilled. So finally, I take a plunge.
With little money in hand, Olivia started her first company.
It is very unusual for the 80s that people who are, like Olivia, educated to university level, to say, hey, I've got a good job with a multinational, let me forget about this and take my chances with my small savings to start a company.
Olivia's company was called Hydrochem, and it was in the business of water treatment. Her capacity for hard work would see her through long days at Hydrochem's small, unglamorous office.
On the daytime, she'll be basically seeing a lot of clients. The evening time, she'll be doing out proposals. She's very big into the engineering side of it, even to the fabrication and to the supervision. And at night, she'll be entertaining clients. So literally, her entire day was just revolving around the business and the engineering as well. And when you're a small company, basically, the boss has to do everything.
The people they employ left only after a short while. So it was very difficult to retain staff because the company was small. And at the same time, the business climate in Singapore wasn't very good for small company.
To keep her company going, Olivia would have to canvass for business on her own, even from neighboring countries. While the ensuing years were difficult, Olivia persevered and Hydrochem eventually achieved some profitability. But for a small company like Hydrochem, going up against MNCs with greater resources was a seemingly insurmountable struggle.
Singapore was so open to foreigners, so open to all the big MNC coming in already. There will have a very little opportunity for a company like mine.
In those times, Olivia had already seen into the future that basically Singapore is too small a market, and that if you really wanted to be a global participant, you needed a much bigger market than that.
We just could not compete with all these big companies. They have good products, they have big finances, and it is an uphill task for me. So I told myself that I must open another market.
Olivia was backed against a wall. Without a new market, her business could well fail. So she made a bold move, once again going from the familiar to the unknown.
Behind the glamour of some of the world's leading fashion houses.
The day before the show, we really need to listen to some music.
What happens behind the scenes before the all-important runway show?
Stop. Off you go. Trot, trot.
Come on, everyone out.
Everyone that matters is here.
Let's go.
Hurry up.
One of the most intense and emotional moments in fashion.
I am exhausted.
The day before, Saturday 8:30 on SBS2.
Are you a self-funded retiree concerned about the return you're getting from your investments?
My cash investments are earning so little at the moment, I hardly notice the income.
Our annuities aren't earning enough for us to live on, which makes things tough.
Accelerator is an investment fund that aims to produce an income in excess of 1% per month on average, or more than 12% per year. We've created this detailed information pack to explain how it works. It's free and there's no obligation, so call now and start earning extra passive income from the first month you've invested.
A monthly income of 1% or more. I like the sound of that.
This fund invests in blue chip Australian companies and pays income distributions direct to your bank account. Self-funded retirees just like you are benefiting from the income that Accelerator delivers, and you could too. Call now for an obligation-free information pack that may make a world of difference in your retirement. Call now.
Join UK entertainment legend and family man Bruce Forsyth.
My family tree is probably feeling a bit tired now.
As he discovers more family across the Atlantic.
This is a wonderful surprise.
And a great-grandfather with a very colourful past.
He did have a family in England. He had 6 children.
Oh my goodness.
We've opened a whole can of worms. Can't believe it's come to this.
Who Do You Think You Are? With Bruce Forsyth. Sunday, 7:30 on SBS1.
Olivia Lum's choice of China as the new market to venture into in 1992 showed remarkable foresight. China wasn't then the magnet for foreign companies it is today. Her decision to get in early would pay off. Today, sales here account for more than half a company's annual revenue. But Olivia's passage to China was not without difficulty.
I think it was 92. She then said, hey, I really want to go to China. And if you remember that time, everyone wanted to go to Southeast Asia. This was before even we had the drive to go into China. And we were saying, whatever for? And then she said, no, when everybody is going the other part of Asia, we should look at China. You know, it's our natural market.
During that time, nobody wanted to go to China. But I was full of confidence.
Olivia didn't want Hydrochem in China to be just another water treatment company. She needed a competitive edge. And she found the answer in the problems her clients were facing.
They have been always sharing, if you have something that is very compact, very small, you will save my problems. We don't have to go through the traditional technology to do the wastewater treatment and water treatment. And I bore that in mind. And I told myself that I must look for these little tiny things that can squeeze everything together. And finally, I found that membrane would be the answer to today's needs.
These membranes can be custom designed to filter out unwanted chemicals and substances from liquids. And it would be the innovative use of these membranes that would become Hydrochem's marketable point of difference.
During that time, membranes was so expensive. It was so unavailable and it was so immature. But I told myself during that time that if you promote everything that is so mature and so available, where is your added advantage? Where is your distinct advantage?
There are other processes that are used to convert treated wastewater into potable drinking water. But more and more, with the membrane costs coming down and the membrane life expanding, membrane processes are becoming more commonly used, will replace eventually the other processes.
One day, she came running back and she said, I've got it, I've got the product that I want to sell into China. And said, now I need the money.
Singapore market is so small and our company was so small. It just didn't make sense to keep struggling.
Olivia was confident that she had the right product and the right market to venture into. Yet, without the right amount of capital, she was going nowhere. But the support she needed would soon come from alliances she made some 10 years earlier at university.
She mentioned that she would like to branch into China. And at that time, of course, she doesn't have the capital to branch into China. So after some discussion, we decided to approach our colleagues and friends to rope in about 10 investors to raise ideally $1 million.
That's when she gathered 10 of us. The 3 professors, I still remember my dentist friend, myself. It was a mixed group of us. And she sat us down and she came with some samples. And it was membranes. She basically said, look, I've been studying the China market. If you look around the globe, besides Europe and America, China and India are too big to ignore. And particularly because even if they didn't sell to the rest of the world, they actually need it, whether it's pharmaceuticals or biotech.
I prepare some little presentation file for them to take a look. And this is going to be, very good. This is my product and so on. And the next day, they call me and they say that, they would like to invest.
So each of us put in between 50,000 to 100,000. And it was very painful at that time, being a fairly young doctor. But we looked at it this way. I mean, if you wanted to take a hunch in life, you wanted to take a risk, your best bet would probably be Olivia.
Olivia's friends had faith in her, so they raised $1.2 million to fuel her entry into China.
I actually felt suddenly a lot of pressure on myself because I could not lose that money. And there's more pressure than doing the business itself. So I told myself that I mustn't fail. I must really make it happen.
Olivia's China operations began in Shanghai, but the road ahead was still a bumpy one. Olivia might have been ready for China, But China wasn't ready for Olivia.
我们是1978年改革开放的，那么到那个时候呢，只有10几年，啊，而且呢，就是应该说刚刚起步。那么好多的这个中国的做法，都还没有跟世界接轨，跟现在有很大的差距。那么他又不太懂中国的国情，他怎么来做生意？胆子的确是非常大，我看一般的人是不敢来的。另外，他的这个专业是环保、水，那个时候中国根本就谈不上。
It was a big struggle in China because it was still a foreign country to you, and culturally, market-wise, everything else is really something that you really have to learn from scratch. Information wasn't very transparent, and so you really have to feel your way.
Not one to back away from difficulty, Olivia did find her way in China to great success.
快要到了，我记得了。
This is where it all began, the company's first China office.
这个地方就是我们做设备，我们在做设备。我还记得冬天的时候，我们呢半夜赶那个设备，就是在这边赶。Back in 1993, the condition in Shanghai wasn't very conducive. I remember it was winter. It was so freezing cold. I was actually supervising the welding job. I had to go so close to the welding because going closer to the welding can actually give you some warmth.
看不出来，看不出来，都不知道这个是老板还是工程人员，看不出来。
肯定她是女孩子。
基本上这个老板呢，就是老板也是师傅。刚开始招来的工人看不懂英文，那我们又这些英文的专业英文也看不懂，那他就坐在那个凳子上，就跟你一遍遍怎么解释这设备应该怎么做，怎么装。
你跟他打个招呼的时候，This is the place where we stay. But it is much better now. The facilities here were really poor. We didn't have air condition. We didn't have heater. So during summer, you have lots of mosquitoes, and during winter time, you really have to suffer a lot of cold. And when I first came here, I remember that we pasted our employment advertisement on the lamppost, and to my surprise, the first interview we saw about more than 500 people turn up. My first employee, Ge Wenyue, was among those engineers that came forward. And I remember when I came here, it was summer. There was one of the big culture shock for me. They came with the shorts, and I came with slippers, and then they were engineers. And when they interview halfway through, they could actually took out their towel, and they keep wiping their neck, wiping their hand.
刚开始进去的时候有点惊讶，倒不是惊讶个女老板，而是惊讶这老板怎么这么年轻，这么漂亮。她讲话很有激情，很有感染力的。进这个公司反而薪水还更低，刚开始的时候，我原来的薪水比那个时候要高将近1倍，但是觉得这个东西很有前途。
Olivia's timely entry into China was to be a major factor in her eventual success.
In 1992-93, there wasn't many industries being set up, the foreign industries. But in 1995-96, we see many of the foreigners, the big MNCs, setting their factories there already. And that actually gave us a big opportunity. And they look at us as a foreign company, and at the same time, with the presence in local, they felt very comfortable. If not for the fact that we had not gone there earlier, I suppose we have missed the boat.
I think Hyflux, who's now the mother company of Hydrochem, would never be what it is today if we had not gone, because all the work was done then. So what you're seeing now is actually a development of that work.
Olivia had achieved what she set out to do in China, but this was just a stepping stone. Her vision for the company was much grander. Bolstered by her success in China, she now looked for bigger, more lucrative, high-profile projects.
We have established ourselves in China, but we're still a very small company. We know that we can do much bigger jobs. The big ones are like municipal jobs, where you really serve the entire township and so on. Going to municipal project would then widen our market share.
And therefore, we sort of said, we've got to find something related to the government, something related to municipalities. When Bird Park responded, I said, that's it.
In 1998, Olivia's company won a contract from Singapore's Jurong Bird Park. It was the company's first shot at lucrative government-funded projects. The Bird Park is one of the island's main tourist attractions, and it was just the project Olivia needed to propel her to the next stage of her journey.
The industries always find it so costly to turn the wastewater into potable water grade. So we started to knock on the doors of many MNCs, and we were able to demonstrate to them how much money they could save.
So when I saw the mailer that came to my office, I was my curiosity was aroused because they say they promise us cost savings in water consumption and all that. So I called my project manager and said, hey, we should contact this company and find out whether they can actually deliver what they promise,
The Bird Park was then using two sources of water. The first was secondary treated wastewater for watering plants and housekeeping, and the second was expensive potable water for the park's bird population.
Birds are same like us, they're animals. I mean, they need good quality water. So therefore, why it was so interesting was we were able to take that sewage water, use a dual membrane method, ultrafiltration and reverse osmosis, and treat that water back up to what would be equivalent of potable drinking water.
Hydrochem at the time said that the final product will be even cheaper than potable water, which is, of course, something that we want to consider.
Consideration turned into a firm decision, and Hydrochem was engaged to build an on-site water treatment plant. The successful completion of this project was not only a solid testimony of Hydrochem's capabilities, but it also made good on the company's promise to the Bird Park.
Well, the plant was commissioned in 1999, and of course we generated a lot of good publicity out of that. And we received congratulating notes from zoological parks around the world. And at the time, I think it propelled Bird Park into the forefront of water recycling and water conservation.
This is probably the first time that we use such a big scale of a membrane in doing the recycling of a sewage water. More importantly, it also has demonstrated that Hyflux was able to put up a big plant. Hyflux was able to make use of the membrane in a very innovative way.
The success of the Jurong Bird Park plant became the springboard for Olivia to reach for even bigger projects. Amongst the first of these was a project that would have far-reaching implications for Singapore as a nation and for Olivia as a rising technopreneur.
For Singapore, water is a strategic issue. It's a strategic issue in terms of economic growth, very much so because Singapore depends on Malaysia for about 40 to 45% of the water supply. Government was looking to have alternate sources of water available, just for overall water security reasons.
It was so important that we knew we could stand on our own, that we had water resource that we could take and convert it into alternative water sources for the population at large.
For decades, Singapore had relied on two primary water sources, reservoirs and an imported Malaysian supply. But the need for a third alternative was mooted. In 2001, the government put up for tender the construction of Singapore's first wastewater recycling plant.
It was a very fierce competition because it has attracted many world-class water treatment companies. We were probably one of the smallest local company around.
Everyone hotly competed for this project because the Singapore government has a very good name. It was the place to make it a hotbed for new technologies, and therefore whoever won it would be on the international radar screen.
With bigger players, both overseas and local, vying for the contract, Hyflux, as the company was now called, was pretty much the underdog. But Olivia knew this was her chance to break into the lucrative municipal project market.
When the Bedok New Water Plant was bid, Hyflux was the smallest of the companies that tendered for that project. I don't believe they had done that size of a project before this time.
I told my people, I gathered all of them into the meeting room, and I told them that we mustn't be fearful of all the big guys out there. We have to be mindful that this is the only chance we can make it big. this is the only chance we can catch on to the opportunity, and we don't want to lose this opportunity.
As in all procurements with PUB, the evaluation factors are the track record of the company, the financial standing, the ability to finish the project on time and within budget, the experience of the team that's proposed for the project, and the cost.
I remember my team coming up to Olivia and myself and saying, everyone says you need 2.5 years to start from award to design to testing and commissioning. And how are you going to do it in one? She said, guys, that's it. We are different. We've always been different. Forget everything that everyone has said. Let's start all over again and do it the way we've always done it.
I told them that let's make it a deal. You don't sleep for 3 months until the bid end, and I let you sleep all the time. The last week to the tender, all the people were like camping overnight. The people who were not involved in the bid were helping to buy tea, coffee, and giving that kind of a moral boosting to the people who are preparing the bid.
The efforts of the underdogs paid off, and Olivia's company was awarded the contract to build the Bedok new water plant.
But I imagine it was pretty difficult to be competing against much larger companies. Obviously, the fact that they won it means that they passed all the criteria and were considered the best option for that plant.
Hyflux winning the new water project was like a battle between David and Goliath. You know, Hyflux here was a small company which was emerging with a relatively small capital base against the more established and bigger domestic as well as international players.
In under a year, Hyflux had the new water plant ready for operation.
So we work on the solution day after day, week after week, months after month, years after years. And today what do we have? We have new water.
The launch of new water was a major national triumph for Singapore, and it put Olivia and Hyflux in the media spotlight.
Hyflux has in certain sense alleviated this water requirement by enabling this recycling of water, and this helps us capture back some of water which would otherwise have been wasted. Having secured the new water project, it is a key reference point when they bid for other projects going forward into the future.
New water has taken Olivia and Hyflux to new heights, and the company continues to win blue-chip mega projects, including multi-million-dollar deals in China and Dubai. Olivia's vision of taking Hyflux global was beginning to take shape. On the personal front, Olivia's leadership qualities were recognized by the nation when she was invited to serve as a nominated Member of Parliament in 2002.
I, Olivia Lum, having been appointed as a nominated Member of the Parliament of Singapore.
But even with these considerable successes, Olivia was not about to rest on her laurels. She would soon astonish people with another remarkable achievement.